The computer-playing slacker is fired. The new CEO, William Thomas, 59, was incompetent, to say the least. He was terrible with machines and had to call someone to make copies. The employees, including me, thought he was the worst. He didn't understand my job as an engineer and called me a slacker. Fine. William changed company policies on a whim, making the work environment terrible, so I decided to leave. I accepted getting fired, as he said. But the day after I left, he bombarded me with calls. Apparently, there was an error in the management system I created. He ordered me to fix it, but I set a condition in return. My name is Mason Green and I'm 42. I'm the only system engineer in the company, managing our systems. We're a small business, always short-staffed. We appreciate customer orders, but the lack of staff means constant overtime. I plan to ask the CEO to broaden our hiring. But as if to sabotage me, sales department kept dumping work on me, asking for options or speeding up deadlines. They made decisions on their own, and it all fell on me. When I joined, there were many engineers. As a newbie, I followed my seniors, but they all quit, and now it was just me. The burden of doing it all alone was greater than the loneliness of losing coworkers. Then we were informed of a change in CEOs. The old CEO was resigning due to age, and the new one was the 59-year-old vice CEO, William Thomas. One morning during the meeting, William faced the employees and greeted us as follows. I am William Thomas, your new CEO. I expect you all to work hard to grow this company. He had a condescending tone, but I hoped the new CEO would increase the number of engineers. So, I quickly approached him with my concerns. William, may I have a word? Huh? Who are you? He looked at me suspiciously. Even though we rarely met, he should know me after over 10 years of working here. I'm Mason from the engineering department. Don't you remember? Engineering department. Do we have such a department? William looked puzzled, his gaze drifting to the upper right. He genuinely didn't seem to know about the engineering department, which shocked me. I handle our management systems. Do you really not know who I am? I mostly worked in sales, so I'm clueless about computers. As vice CEO, William was busy assisting the CEO and traveling, so he forgot about me. Though hurt by being forgotten, I pulled myself together and made my request. Currently, I'm the only one in the engineering department. The burden is too much, and efficiency is dropping. Do you think we can get more staff? Despite my earnest plea, William frowned and shook his head. The former CEO told me to increase profits. Adding staff would just increase labor costs. But if we had even one more engineer, we could take on more work. I persisted, unwilling to give up. But he made a dismissive gesture, not wanting to hear it. Enough. You're being too persistent. I've just taken over and I'm busy. We'll discuss this later. He stomped back to his office. In hindsight, I understood he was new to the role, carrying the immense responsibility passed on by the previous CEO. I decided to give it some time and approach him again once he was settled. However, it soon became clear that William couldn't even handle a copier, let alone a computer. One day, he called me to his office. My computer is broken. Fix it. He called me to his office and said so. I didn't touch anything and it broke. Do something. I hadn't even asked him a single question yet but was already insisting it wasn't his fault. The desktop computer screen was indeed black, and pressing the keyboard did nothing. See, this is why I hate computers. They break without any warning. All right, let me take a look. I checked for any issues with the peripherals, and found a problem within a minute. At William's feet, I noticed a cord unplugged from the outlet. It must have been accidentally pulled out, cutting off the power. I picked it up and showed it to him. Look, it's just unplugged. When I plugged it back in, the power restored immediately, and the computer was working fine. Realizing it was his carelessness, William's eyes widened. Well, it's fixed now, so you're not needed anymore. Get back to your desk. After being kicked out of the CEO's office, I walked down the hallway and noticed a trash can. I couldn't help but think of William and lightly kicked it. It seemed William had little experience with computers and was quite the technophobe. So, you may ask, how did he manage to rise through the ranks? He was once a sales representative. In his younger days, he met his quotas by doing outside sales. As a result, he often said that computer-based tasks were the job of his subordinates. Another day, William called me in again. I wondered what it was about this time, and he ordered me to make copies of some documents. You can make copies while you call someone to do it for you. Shut up. I don't get along with the new copier. Just do it. He thrust the documents at me rudely, and I reluctantly went to the copier. I sighed profoundly, as I was called in for an irrelevant order while working. Why didn't you ask the vice CEO or someone else? Why did you call me? As I loaded the documents into the copier, I asked William. He was reading a gossip magazine. Well, because you seem the least busy. You're the only one sitting and typing away on a computer all day. Excuse me. I couldn't hide my bewilderment at his response. My job involved creating and maintaining the company's management system and security software. Despite being overwhelmed with unreasonable demands from the sales department, I managed to meet deadlines. Thanks to that, there were no complaints from customers, and I maintained the company's reputation. Yet, it was shocking that William didn't understand my work. Are you done with making copies? Oh, yes. Here you go. I took the original and copied documents from the copier and handed them to William. He didn't even look at them, just gestured with his chin for me to place them on his desk. After confirming my task was finished, I left the CEO's office. In the hallway, I ran into a colleague who often chatted with me. When I told him about being summoned by William, he sympathized. You know what? William gets other employees to make copies and handle data processing on computers too. Seriously. It's a problem for a CEO to be so clueless about machines. It seemed everyone was aware of William's incompetence, and I wasn't the only one troubled by it. That alone gave me some sense of relief, and we shared a tired laugh. I thought things would get better with a new CEO. Yeah, the old one was better than this. We joked as we parted ways, and I returned to my post. William's incompetence became well known throughout the company, and everyone wished for a new CEO soon. But everyone's wishes wouldn't come true easily, and William continued to make the work environment worse. Telework is unnecessary. Working from home is lazy. Even during a hurricane, everyone must be present at the office. Previously, a large-scale infectious virus was spreading in America, so our company also introduced telework for a period. I also had a period where I worked from home, and surprisingly, it was easier to work and the reduced commute time was revolutionary. However, William had the image that working from home was slacking off, and he ordered all employees to come to the office no matter the circumstances. We strongly opposed this. Why are you retracting telework? I saw it on TV. There are young people who work in their pajamas while at home. I won't tolerate such lazy behavior in our company. He was influenced by television and tried to change the company's policies. It was intolerable that our burdens increased due to his unilateral decisions and prejudices. Then, an employee with children appealed to him. I have 3 small children. Thanks to telework, I could take care of them while working when they had a fever. Leave the kids to someone else. Hire a housekeeper to take care of them. I can afford to hire a housekeeper on my salary. At his words, William got angry and shouted, "If your salary is low, it's because of your lack of ability. Don't blame me." After losing his temper, he ignored all the employees' complaints and arbitrarily changed all the policies. Such selfish actions made both me and everyone else suspicious of him. I figured that if things got any worse, I'd have to terminate relations with this company. To protect my position, I started carrying something at work, just in case. I hoped I'd never have to use it. Feeling the discomfort of the workplace, I was, as usual, busy with deadlines. This time, I was sure I could stick to the schedule and enjoy a Friday night off. But right before leaving work yesterday, an employee from the sales department added more tasks to my plate. He had instantly agreed to a client's request for a new feature, without extending the deadline. So, even after everyone else had left, I had to stay late. How come I am always the one who has to suffer? I was looking forward to Friday night, and now I have to work overtime. I grumbled, but I didn't resist because I knew I'd get paid for the extra hours. Even if my workload increased and I had to work late, as long as I got paid overtime, I could endure it. The main reason I stayed at this company was that they paid overtime properly. My engineer friends at other companies often complained about not getting paid for extra hours or having to work from home because overtime was forbidden. Compared to them, my company was still somewhat fair. But recently, Williams' changes in company policy made the future uncertain. Next week would be the first payday since William became CEO. Thinking of it as a day when my hard work would pay off kept me motivated. Finally, payday arrived, and we received our salary statements. I eagerly checked mine, only to be shocked. Why is it less than last time? Looking around, I saw my colleagues happily discussing how they'd spend their paychecks. I couldn't accept that my overtime pay was zero, so I headed straight to the CEO's office. Before that, I checked the item I had been carrying, then confronted William. "Mr. Thomas, why didn't I get any overtime pay?" I raised my voice, but he seemed uninterested, reading the newspaper. His attitude made me angry, and I snatched the newspaper from his hands, and he responded with irritation. "Because you're just playing around." "What?" He snatched the newspaper back from me. "You're staying late every day just for the overtime pay, aren't you?" Feeling both creeped out by his grin and enraged by his lack of understanding, I retorted, "With all due respect, I work overtime to ensure our clients are satisfied. Providing a secure management system is one of our company's strengths." Well, the only reason you work overtime is because you're slow at your job." His cynical chuckle made me even angrier. "Let's say you're right and it was my fault. You still need to pay me for my overtime, or it's a legal issue." I countered strongly, but William just smirked at me again. "If I don't pay lazy employees, what happens? Do you think I'll get arrested?" "Maybe not arrested, but your reputation and the company's will suffer." Hearing this, he frowned. "So, please review my overtime pay immediately." I slammed my pay stub on his desk. I hoped that by being firm, he'd reluctantly comply. As long as he paid what was due, I wouldn't complain. Despite any personal grudges, fair compensation would suffice. But his next words shattered any remaining hope. "I won't pay a dime to someone who just plays around on company computers." "Excuse me." I was shocked and speechless. Despite my dedication to the company's success, he had no intention of acknowledging my efforts. "Calling yourself an engineer, but all you do is tinker with computers. Any other department could handle that. How dare you? I'm responsible for our company's systems." But William stood up from his chair with a stern face and pointed at me. "You're fired, you salary thief, playing around on computers." In that moment, I felt all my feelings for the company cool instantly. I understand. To him, my work was nothing more than a game. Who would follow a boss who neither pays fairly nor understands his employees' work? "It's been a pleasure working with you." "Excuse me." I took my payslip and thanked William. "Huh? You're really okay with being fired?" He seemed taken aback by how easily I accepted my dismissal. "But I'll be here this month for the handover process." Leaving those words behind, I exited the CEO's office. From that point on, I conducted handover tasks with my close colleagues and eventually resigned from the company where I'd worked for over 10 years. Though the employees missed me and handed me a bouquet on my last day, I was glad to sever ties with William. Not receiving fair pay, however, left me frustrated. I regretted not pushing harder for my overtime pay. But the day after my resignation, my cell phone rang incessantly. Seeing an unknown number calling since the morning felt eerie, so I ignored it. However, after 10 calls, it became so persistent that I answered, ready to complain. "Stop calling me." "Wow, don't yell at me like that." To my surprise, it was William. "What, Mr. Thomas? What do you want? Come to the office right now." He seemed flustered and hurried. Why? I'm no longer needed, right? Just get here. The staff says they need you. It seemed not only William, but also the employees were in a panic. Leaving William aside, I was worried about the others, so I grabbed my bag and headed to the office. When I arrived at the office, all the employees were glued to their computers or overwhelmed with phone calls. Oh, Mason. As soon as one employee noticed me, everyone turned to look at me at once. Mason, please help us. What happened? I calmed them down and had them explain the situation from the beginning. The problem occurred that morning, right after I left the company. The company's management system malfunctioned, and the employee who took over my duties tried to handle it. This management system contains crucial information, detailing all our customer data and company products. If this information were to be exposed and misused, the company would be finished. It was a problem that could have been solved quickly if handled calmly. But William, who witnessed the situation, fiddled with the computer and made the bug spread. An error not covered in the manual occurred, and no one but me could handle it. If left unresolved, the information might leak outside, causing a significant loss of customer trust. To prevent this, all employees were manually entering customer data into separate files. Just as I finished hearing the situation, William appeared in the workplace. Oh, there you are. As you can see, no one but you can handle this. Fix the computer right now. It's embarrassing to ask a resigned employee for help, but we have no one else to rely on. Please help us. After considering their request for a moment, I responded. Then, I'll demand compensation for the wrongful dismissal and unpaid overtime. What? I glared at William and extended my hand, palm up. It's convenient for you to ask for help after firing me. As the CEO, you have to take responsibility for the dismissal, so I'm asking for $10,000 in compensation. William broke into a cold sweat, visibly shaken. All the employees turned their eyes to him. Why do I have to pay money? It's your fault for slacking off. He insisted that I was dismissed due to poor performance. I've never slacked off, and if I had, I'm sure there would have been complaints. I glared at the sales department staff in the corner of the room, and they awkwardly looked away. They just said yes to client demands and left all the work to me. Because of that, I'd been handling multiple companies' deliveries alone, but there had been no complaints so far. That's how sincere I'd been with my work. Firing me was a mistake on your part, Mr. Thomas. What? Do you not understand that your incompetence and lack of understanding of engineers have caused this situation? With everyone's eyes on him, William looked flustered. Apologize for calling me a salary thief and agree to the compensation, and I will fix the problem. If I said this much, I expected him to comply. And if he did, I was going to help the employees immediately. But, a salary thief? I never said that. He smirked, belittling me. Don't make me the bad guy. I see. You're going to keep dodging responsibility. I sighed at his refusal to acknowledge his actions. I told you before. Unpaid overtime is a legal issue. That's if it's true. Do you have proof? Huh? William sneered at me, thinking it was a bluff, but I had something in my bag that would break his confident attitude. Yes, I do have proof. What? I took out a voice recorder from my bag. When I considered changing jobs, I brought this to the office in case anything happened. I kept it in my suit pocket so I could record immediately if needed. And of course, I recorded a conversation when I was fired. Seeing the voice recorder, he tilted his head. What is that? An old mobile phone. It's the latest voice recorder. It can record conversations with the push of a button. I turned the volume to the maximum and pressed the play button. As the conversation between me and William played in the office, the employees began to stir. Hearing his own voice, William turned pale and stared at the voice recorder. You're fired, you salary thief, playing on the computer. That was the last words before the recording ended. Then, I heard the employees whispering around. This is unbelievable. Mason is such an excellent engineer. And Mr. Thomas accused him of playing on the computer. He is the one who always reads gossip mags. They glared at William with complete contempt. There was no way he could talk his way out of this. I decided to push further. I took a stack of documents out of my bag and showed them to William. These are printed copies of my time cards. They clearly show my working hours, including overtime. I can submit these to the Labor Standards Office and sue you, Mr. Thomas. The Labor Standards Office. If they found out about unpaid overtime, they would investigate the company. If that happened, his capabilities as a CEO would be exposed. William began to sweat profusely, struggling with what to do. I don't care what happens to the company. You fired me. I smiled, and the employees surrounded William. Mr. Thomas, please comply with Mason's demands. If we leave this issue unresolved, things will only get worse. Cornered by them, William grimaced and mumbled, "Fine, just wait a moment." He rushed to the nearest bank and handed me the compensation and unpaid overtime. After checking that it was around $12,000, I put it in my bag, and he grabbed my arm. "I did what you asked me to do. Now, fix the system." "All right, understood." I started up the computer and navigated to the management screen effortlessly. I found the error and fixed it quickly. Within minutes, the management system was restored, and I addressed the employee who had been taking over. "The error is easy to fix. I'll email you the solution later." "Thank you." The employees began to praise me. "Mason is the man. He solved a problem no one else could in an instant." I was used to handling these issues, but being praised this much made me feel a bit shy. What? Is Mason really that amazing? Of course. He was the only engineer in the company. William put his finger to his mouth, wearing expressions of surprise. He seemed to finally grasp the importance of an engineer. However, having received the compensation, my work there was truly over. "I'm done here, so I'm leaving. Don't call me again." When I said this, William glared at me with a sullen face. "I have no more use for you. Get out." As he spat out those words, the employees' faces hardened, glaring at him resentfully. Before leaving the company, I told everyone, if you have complaints, don't hold them in. Sometimes, you have to speak up. I gave them a fist pump and left the company. After a while, I was helping out a friend while looking for a new job. It was difficult to obtain a new work when you were in your 40s, but I had a few leads through contacts. I was relieved to know that if things continued smoothly, I would be able to successfully change jobs. But then, I heard surprising news from a former colleague. William's dismissal was decided at a shareholders meeting. Apparently, after I left, someone informed the major shareholders about the system trouble in the company. They also raised issues like William's negligence and the Labor Department's investigation, submitting a petition for his dismissal signed by all the employees. The petition stemmed from strong opposition to William's actions after I had fixed the trouble, and he still kicked me out. As a result, William, who already had low credibility among the employees, was forced to step down. Moreover, all the executives who supported William were also fired, leading to a complete overhaul of the management. Now, the employees wanted me as the next CEO. When my former colleague told me about this, I was deeply shocked. Me, the CEO? That's impossible. There's no way a former employee like me can handle it. I declined immediately, but the other employees all insisted that I was the right person for the job. The shareholders also highly valued my efforts in saving the company from crisis, and they unanimously agreed. But I was just an engineer. The system trouble was just within my expertise. It didn't mean I was suited to be CEO. I was happy that everyone praised me, but I politely declined their offer. However, the next day, the employees showed up at my house, begging me to return to the company. "Mason, you always tried to uphold company policy and stood up to William. There's no one else who can lead the company now. Please, let's work together again." Their desperate pleas made me waver. "I'm sorry you came all this way, but I really..." Just as I was about to refuse, one of the employees said, "William is no longer with the company. This is our chance to improve the work environment." Oh, that's right. William is gone. The reason I accepted being fired was that I didn't want to follow that guy. With him gone from the company, and with the opportunity to rebuild it, we could create a better working environment than before. We'll support you, Mason. Please, come back. Moved by their enthusiasm and the hope of rebuilding the company from scratch, I returned and became the new CEO. I took in the opinions of the employees. reviewed the company's management policies, and established a new structure. I also succeeded in improving the work environment and compensation, which I had been dissatisfied with, by utilizing my own experience as a former employee of the company. This made the working environment far more comfortable than before. Now that I was CEO, the pressure was immense, knowing that my skills affected the lives of my employees. However, I have strong allies, and the company thrives because of the employees. It's impossible to generate sales on my own. Grateful to those who trusted and followed me, I was determined to improve our performance. After that, a large-scale personnel reshuffle took place within the company. We decided to hire to increase staff in understaffed departments. As a result, experienced mid-career applicants applied, and we conducted interviews. As the CEO, I was waiting for the final interview, and the HR manager approached me. He handed me a resume with a perplexed look on his face. As soon as I saw it, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "This is William." In the name field, it was written William Thomas, and there was his photo. He was fired from the company but came to reapply for a job. Given his unpopularity as a CEO among employees, he should have been eliminated during the document screening, but a mistake led him to the interview stage. When asked what to do, I immediately ordered to kick him out. I didn't know if he wanted to return to the company he was kicked out of, but there was no place for him here anymore. I thought to myself that he should find another job. After finishing the day's interviews, I was about to return to the CEO's office when an employee hurriedly ran up to me. "Mason, we have trouble. William is trying to force his way in." What? He was supposed to be kicked out earlier, but it appeared that he had stormed the office again. To avoid further commotion, I headed towards him. Upon reaching the entrance, William was arguing with several employees. "I am the former CEO. Let me through. Please leave." Seeing them struggle to handle him, I called out, and William clung to me, pleading, "Please, hire me." "Hold on, William, calm down." I soothed his excitement and questioned why he came to the interview. "I was fired, but I want to fulfill my duties as CEO again. I didn't do well before, but this time I'll regain your trust." With his determination, I exchanged glances with the employees, giving a wry smile. William stared at my face, muttering in wonder. "Wait a minute. I thought I fired you, Mason. Why are you here?" Calming down, he seemed puzzled by my presence. Then, an angry employee spoke up. "Don't be rude to our CEO." "What, did you just refer to him as CEO?" William blinked in confusion, peering at me repeatedly. With a business smile, I answered him. "Yes, I returned as your successor." "What?" He stepped back as if betrayed by his comrades. "Thinking about coming back as CEO? Well, you might want to give up on that idea." Seeing the guy who always belittled me so shocked felt incredibly satisfying. "We're not hiring you, but we wish you success elsewhere," I said, urging William to leave the entrance. But he clung to me, almost in tears. "Please, Mason. I have nowhere to go after losing my job. I'll do anything, even clerical or sales work. Just hire me. You can't even use a photocopier. You disrespect people and try to disrupt the circle of workers. Who would hire such a person? Get out," I said firmly, calling security. "Wait, I was wrong. Please forgive me." William pleaded in tears but was escorted out by security. After that, he attended numerous interviews but was rejected each time. He is now making a living through day labor. Despite having considerable assets as a vice CEO, he lost more than half his wealth as alimony when his wife divorced him after he got fired. His savings are nearly exhausted, and unless he finds a job that pays more than day labor, he'll face an increasingly dire situation. Even so, he slacks off and gets fired wherever he goes. The consequence of dumping his work on others are now catching up with him. If I had worked more seriously, I wouldn't be in this mess. I'm sure he'll regret like that. Even if he realizes his mistake right before retirement, it's too late. On the other hand, after starting a new business, our performance improved further, and we succeeded in establishing a branch office. I also got featured in a business magazine for rising from an engineer to CEO. This increased our recognition, expanded our business partners, and now overseas expansion is within reach. We're no longer classified as a small or medium-sized business, but rather as a significant company. And I continue to work for the employees who believed and followed me.